Can you imagine bringing cupcakes home to celebrate your own birthday, only to realize you're the only one who remembered? I turned 31 on a Tuesday. There's something cruel about that. Midweek, middle-aged, middle priority. A nothing day for what's supposed to be something. I left the office early, the box of cupcakes on my passenger seat tilting gently with every turn. Vanilla bean with lemon zest, from that bakery downtown where they write your name in gold foil. I picked them up myself. No one had asked what kind of cake I liked. I unlocked the door to my apartment and was greeted by silence. No balloons, no card on the counter, just my own careful handwriting on the sticky note I'd left myself. Don't forget to take the trash out. Happy birthday. The absurdity made me laugh. Just for a second. I placed the cupcake box on the table like it was something sacred and reached for my phone. Surely someone, anyone, had sent a message. Maybe a meme, a lazy HBD, even a typo-ridden Facebook post from a relative who never remembers the difference between a comment and a status. But instead, my screen lit up with the family group chat, 83 unread messages. My heart lifted, briefly. Then I opened the thread. Wedding plans. It was all wedding plans. Michael, my brother, 2 years younger, and somehow still the family's golden retriever, was getting married this fall. And apparently, today was the perfect day for everyone to discuss bridal shower themes, signature cocktails, and something about a llama at the welcome brunch. I scrolled through photo attachments and emoji storms. There were polls, giddy OMGs from my cousins. Mom had sent a picture of floral runners. Dad had typed, "Remind me what peonies look like again?" And everyone had laughed like he was adorable. He isn't, and through it all, not one single person had remembered me. Not even a stray, "Happy birthday," nestled between, "Do we have enough chairs for the rehearsal dinner?" and "Chloe wants eucalyptus tones, not sage." I blinked at the screen. Once. Twice. Then I locked the phone and pushed it away like it had burned me. I stared at the cupcake box. The gold foil glinted under the kitchen light. Rachel, in perfect cursive, surrounded by sugared lemon curls. It looked like it belonged to someone more important than I felt right now. I whispered, "Happy birthday," just to hear it out loud. And I ate one. No candles, no singing, just frosting on my fingers, and that hollow sweetness of knowing the only person who'd celebrated me today was me. Well, me and Lily, my cousin's little girl, barely 7, had FaceTimed me earlier from the back seat of their car. She sang the birthday song off-key and proudly showed me the glitter crown she'd made in school. "I wore it for you," she'd said. Lily had remembered. A child. It both warmed me and broke something quietly inside. I didn't cry. I've learned not to cry over things that don't surprise me anymore. But that night, as I wiped the frosting from my lip and stared out at the dark street beyond my window, I felt something shift, like a small crack in a wall I'd pretended wasn't there. And though I couldn't name it yet, I knew one thing for sure. Something in me was done settling for being invisible. I don't know what I expected the morning after my birthday. Maybe guilt-laced emojis, maybe a belated, "Oh no" from Mom. Something. Anything. What I got instead was more talk about eucalyptus napkins and cocktail fonts. It was around message number 38 that I realized the conversation had officially moved on, from swatches and mood boards to something new, something private. A password-protected RSVP link had been dropped into the group chat, like a golden ticket, only shinier. There it sat, glittering between a "so excited for Chloe's dress fitting" and a picture of a welcome sign that said "Fitzgerald wedding weekend" in calligraphy, so smug, it might as well have winked. What struck me first was the link itself. What hit second was the comments. Everyone had responded with an almost desperate eagerness. "Just RSVP'd. Can't wait. Put in my vegan meal request. Chloe's gonna die when she sees the custom cake toppers." And then I noticed something else. No one had tagged me. No one had written, "Hey Rachel, did you see this?" I wasn't mentioned at all. Not once. Not even a stray at Rachel. Not even for logistics. It was like I didn't exist. My chest tightened, slow and low, the way it used to during sleepovers in high school. when everyone else had matching pajamas and I was the girl who brought a hoodie from home. That same heat behind my eyes. That same quiet ache of knowing you're tolerated, not included. I clicked the RSVP link. Out of pure curiosity. At first, a password screen popped up. Cute. I tried the obvious. Michael and Chloe 2024. Wrong. I tried Fits Forever. Here Comes the Bride. Even Peony Palace, which someone had joked about in a previous thread. Each time, the browser shook in quiet rejection. Incorrect. I closed the tab and just stared at the group chat again. Scrolled slowly. Counted names. Mentally checked off every cousin, aunt, and sibling who had responded. I didn't need confirmation. I already knew. I hadn't been invited. Not officially. Not properly. Not like everyone else. I wasn't just left off the password. I was left out of the wedding machinery entirely. The weight of that realization sat heavy on my ribs, like something had pressed down on me overnight and stayed. I didn't want to overreact. That's what they'd say, right? That I'm too emotional, too sensitive, too Rachel. So I gave him, my brother, the benefit of the doubt. I opened our text thread. The last message was from a month ago, a meme about parallel parking, and a one-word reply from me. Ha, that felt accurate. I typed, "Hey, was there an RSVP I missed?" Simple, neutral, no accusation, just giving him the chance. He replied in under a minute. "Oh, that must have been an oversight. Thought you were looped in already." Oversight. Oversight? Like forgetting to CC someone on an email. Like a paperclip you meant to grab but left on the table. Like me. I didn't even have time to process before the next message came in. It's been so hectic. Wedding stuff is crazy. You know how it is. Love you too. I stared at the yellow heart. Not red. Not even pink. Yellow. Safe. Cowardly. I didn't reply. I didn't trust what I'd say if I did. Because in my head I was already writing the words he would never hear. I'm not a napkin you forget to fold into a swan, Michael. I'm your sister. I'm the one who sat outside in the cold with you the night Dad forgot your science fair and you cried into a pretzel. You remember that? I do. But instead of writing that, I just closed the thread and placed my phone face down on the kitchen table. The cupcakes from yesterday were still there. I hadn't touched them since the first one. They were drying out under their clear lid, the sugar pearls slowly melting like they couldn't hold their shape without being wanted. That was the thing. It wasn't that I wanted fanfare or flowers. It was that I wanted to matter. Even just enough to get a link. Even just enough to not be a mistake. And now, I knew I didn't. I didn't mean to start writing them. The letters. It just happened. Quietly. Like how rain starts with one hesitant drop before the whole sky gives up pretending it's fine. I opened my laptop that Saturday morning, intending to distract myself with emails or work, or literally anything that didn't involve Peony's or Chloe's curated Instagram reels. But instead, my fingers drifted toward an empty document. And before I could stop myself, I typed, "Dear Mom, thank you for forgetting." The words startled me, but once they were out, the rest spilled easily, faster than I expected. Every sentence snapped with something sharp I'd dulled for years. They weren't cruel, just honest, bruisingly honest. Thank you for teaching me that love in our family comes with terms and conditions. That it's something you perform, not something you are. That Michael gets to stumble and still be held, and I have to be perfect just to be seen. Thank you for the way you always call him my baby and me my helper. I'm 31 now, Mom. I'm nobody's assistant. I didn't stop there. Next came the one for Michael. Dear Michael, I wish I could tell you how small I felt reading that thread. How many times I refreshed the page, hoping my name had magically appeared in the RSVP list like some digital miracle. But it didn't. And you didn't. You always say love you sis like it's punctuation. But real love doesn't overlook. It doesn't misplace. It doesn't forget. Then Jenna. Of course, Jenna. Dear Jenna, I know you think I'm dramatic. Maybe I am. Maybe some part of me learned to be loud because being quiet never got me anywhere. I don't wear my feelings like accessories. I wear them because no one else in this family will name the truth. Each letter was a release, like peeling off a jacket I hadn't realized was soaked through. And yet, the more I wrote, the heavier I felt, because none of these people were ever going to read them. When I finished the last one, addressed simply to whom it should have concerned, I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. The cursor blinked at me, patient and unbothered. It didn't judge. I saved the file, then deleted it. Not because I didn't mean it, because I did. Too much, and saying it out loud would only give them a reason to write me off as the problem again. That's the trick with families like mine. If you speak up, you're difficult. If you're hurt, you're hysterical. If you're quiet, you're ignored. And if you leave, they call you cold. So I wasn't going to speak. Not with words, anyway. Instead, I made a different choice. I went to the closet, where I kept the blue Tiffany bag I'd bought months ago during a solo lunch break. It had been meant for myself, something to mark the end of a hard quarter at work. But, like most things meant just for me, it had been pushed aside. I pulled it out now, smoothing the ribbon that still held its crisp shape. If I was going to be an afterthought, I'd be an unforgettable one. I didn't need a formal invite. I would RSVP in person. Let them see me walk in, chin high, heels sharp, gift in hand. Let them feel the weight of my presence, the way I'd felt the weight of their silence. And no, I wasn't going to cause a scene. I was going to cause a shift. The kind you don't notice right away, but feel afterward. Like a picture slightly askew. Like air that suddenly tastes different. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and wrapped the gift. Every fold was exact. Every crease pressed down with something like conviction. I didn't know what I'd say yet, but I knew I'd show up. Not because they deserved it, because I did. The drive to the country club felt longer than it was. The roads were clear, the directions easy, but time moved thick and strange. Like the universe was giving me just enough rope to turn back if I wanted to. I didn't. The Tiffany box sat on the passenger seat, buckled in like a fragile passenger. I had no idea if it would even get open today. That wasn't the point. The gift wasn't for them. It was for my dignity, my reminder that I didn't shrink, even when they refused to make room. As I pulled into the long circular driveway of the Fitzgerald Country Club, I could already see clusters of pastel dresses and rented tuxedos milling about the lawn, posing for filtered photos and clinking glasses that hadn't yet met lips. I parked in the guest lot and took one last breath before opening the door. No deep pep talk, no dramatic pause, just one breath, enough to steady the trembling in my ribs. The foyer of the country club was all marble and echo. A grand chandelier hung like a promise from the ceiling. Music wafted in from the main ballroom. Something classical, elegant, forgettable. I stepped in slowly, heels clicking against the floor, and the air shifted, not loudly, not noticeably to most, but I felt it. I saw him first, my father. He was by the reception table, adjusting his cufflinks in that self-conscious way he always did when he wanted to look like a man who had it together. He looked up and saw me, his mouth parted slightly, and then he said it. "We didn't think you were coming. Not, you look beautiful. Not, happy to see you. Not even, welcome. Just that. Like, my presence was an unexpected variable, a miscalculation, a surprise RSVP walking on two legs." I tilted my head, letting his discomfort bloom fully before I responded. "No one asked if I was," I said, calm and direct. I didn't blink. He gave a little chuckle, strained, hollow. "You know how these things get. Everything's been so fast. Fast. Like 4 months of planning and 83 messages fast." "Is Michael around?" I asked, scanning the space without waiting for him to answer. Yes, somewhere. They're probably getting ready to start the photos soon." I nodded. Then I walked past him. I didn't linger, I didn't explain. I didn't need to. I moved through the crowd like someone who belonged. Not because they said so, but because I decided I did. Heads turned here and there. A few surprised glances. No one stopped me. Maybe they assumed I'd been invited after all. Maybe they didn't care. Maybe they didn't recognize me without my usual invisibility cloak. Inside the ballroom, everything sparkled. Candles flickered on low centerpieces. Blush-toned linen spilled onto the polished floor. Gold-trimmed name cards sat at every plate, like silent, smug reminders that someone thought through every detail, except me. But still, I stood taller, because they weren't expecting me, because they thought I'd stay home, licking wounds that didn't leave bruises but still left marks. And yet, here I was. I found the nearest attendant and quietly asked for Chloe. The woman nodded politely and gestured toward the bridal suite hallway. I walked there alone, carrying the Tiffany box like it weighed more than it did. I didn't know if Chloe would be surprised. I didn't even know if she'd want to see me. But that wasn't the point. The point was, I came anyway. And sometimes, showing up when they counted you out, that's the loudest thing you can do. The hallway to the bridal suite was quieter than the rest of the country club, muted, like the world had decided to hush before the main act. Plush carpet swallowed the sound of my heels, and every step felt heavier than the last. Not with dread, with clarity. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry anymore either. I was ready. Outside the suite, I paused and checked the ribbon one last time. The Tiffany box was perfect. Soft white bow, symmetrical knot. On top of it, I had placed the envelope hand-cut cream paper with Chloe's name written in thick, looping calligraphy. I had done it myself 2 nights ago, on my kitchen counter, with a black dip pen I hadn't used since college. I didn't expect her to open it right away. I didn't even know if she'd want to open it at all, but the words were real, and for once, I wasn't writing just for release. I was writing to be understood. I knocked gently. There was a moment of scuffling on the other side, a few high-pitched laughs, the zip of a gown being adjusted, the clink of a spoon in a teacup. Then a bridesmaid opened the door, her face polite and curious. "Hi," I said. "Is Chloe around?" "I won't take more than a second." She looked me up and down, not in a rude way, just processing. Then she smiled faintly. "Let me check." She disappeared, and in the span of those brief seconds, I braced myself for 100 versions of what could happen next. Chloe refusing to see me. Chloe pretending everything was fine. Chloe too distracted to notice the weight of what I carried. But when she stepped into the doorway, veil lifted, hair swept back in soft waves, lipstick the exact shade of something tender, none of those versions came true. Her eyes landed on me, and for a moment she just blinked. Then she said my name. "Rachel?" Not a question, a recognition. I held out the box. "This is for you." I wanted to bring it myself. She took it carefully, hands brushing mine. The weight of the gift seemed to anchor her. Then she looked down at the envelope. She ran her finger over the ink like it meant something. And then, out of nowhere, her eyes filled. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know they hadn't included you." There was no performance in her voice, no wedding day gloss, just raw truth cracking through the glamour. I didn't say anything. I wanted to give her the space to speak first. "I asked Michael if your RSVP came in, and he said you were probably busy," she said, blinking fast. "But I just thought, I assumed, I never would have wanted you left out. I swear, Rachel." Her voice broke on my name. She clutched the envelope tighter. "You've always been kind to me," she said. "Even when everyone else was. Distracted. Distraction. That's what they'd call it. That's how families like ours explain away silence, as if forgetting someone's existence is a temporary lapse, not a long pattern. I'm not here to cause anything," I said gently. "I just wanted to give you something real on your real day." She swallowed hard and glanced down at the box again. "Is it okay if I open it now?" "Of course." She lifted the lid slowly, reverently, and parted the soft tissue. Inside was a porcelain tea set, hand-painted, tiny gold detailing on the rims. A delicate tray, 2 teacups, and a matching sugar bowl. The kind of gift that said, "I see you're quiet. I honor your stillness." For a long time, she didn't speak. Then she looked up at me, tears pushing past her lashes. "I'll use this," she said. "Every time I need to feel like something matters." The way she said it, it wasn't about the tea. It wasn't about the box. It was about the gesture, about being seen, about one woman telling another, "I know what it's like to be invisible at your own celebration." She stepped forward and, without warning, wrapped her arms around me. Her veil brushed my shoulder, her makeup lightly smudged on my dress. I didn't move. I just held her back, careful not to press too hard, careful not to undo her carefully pinned mourning. "Thank you for showing up," she murmured into my hair. "You didn't have to." But that was the thing, I did. Because if I didn't show up for myself, no one else would. Dinner was served on monogrammed china, white with a gold rim, just thick enough to say legacy, just glossy enough to reflect all the faces, avoiding eye contact with mine. The ballroom had warmed up since the ceremony. Guests loosened ties, shoes pinched less, wine had softened edges. Waiters moved in quiet choreography, delivering plates of halibut and braised short ribs, while a string quartet played an instrumental version of a pop song no one could name. I found my assigned seat, far from the head table but close enough to hear toast laughter, catch clinks of flutes and filtered stories from every direction. I wasn't seated next to Michael. Of course I wasn't. To be fair, I was on the chart now. Barely. One of those last-minute additions whose name tag was handwritten in a slightly different font, tucked into a holder that didn't quite match. Aunt Beth smiled at me kindly as I sat. She'd always been the safe kind of polite, the type to ask how you're doing but not wait for the answer. "So good you could make it," she said. I returned the smile. Likewise. Next to me sat Jenna, of course. She was scrolling through her phone with the detached boredom of someone who shows up to events strictly for stories, not moments. She looked beautiful in that predictable way. Perfect hair, tasteful cutouts, an outfit planned 3 weeks ago with 6 backup options. She didn't say anything to me as I sat, but 5 minutes later, I heard her. It was between the second course and dessert, when conversation grew relaxed enough for whispers and judgments to unfurl. The wine had taken off its shoes. People assumed ears wouldn't reach that far. She leaned toward our cousin Danielle, who was halfway through her 3rd glass of Chardonnay, and in that slightly performative whisper that isn't actually a whisper, said, "She just loves making statements." Danielle blinked. "Rachel?" Jenna gave a practiced little shrug. "I mean, come on. She shows up last minute, with a Tiffany box and dramatic lipstick like she's in a movie. No RSVP, no confirmation. Probably hoping someone would gasp or confront her." She sipped her wine. "She wants a scene. She always does." I froze. Not outwardly. My posture stayed calm. My fork still hovered over the roasted carrots on my plate. But inside, every organ tense like it had been struck. I didn't look at her. I didn't say a word, because I knew what she was doing. She wanted a reaction. She wanted proof. And the cruelest part? She believed it. She truly believed that my showing up wasn't courage. It was performance. That my silence was strategy. That my quiet offering to Chloe wasn't peace. It was manipulation. This is the curse of being a woman who won't disappear. They call your presence a provocation. They call your boundary a broadcast. They call your stillness a stunt. I could have turned and told her that my lipstick wasn't for her, that I wrapped that box with trembling fingers, not spotlights in mind, that there's a difference between making a scene and taking a stand. But I didn't, because the strongest thing I could do in that moment was to let her words pass through me without sticking, to let her assumptions rot quietly on her side of the table, to not hand her the drama she so desperately wanted to assign to me, and maybe, just maybe, to protect the fragile new dignity I'd started stitching back together. Later, as dessert was served, a trio of mini tarts no one would finish, I glanced up and caught Chloe looking at me from the head table. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. But she held my gaze for a moment too long, like maybe she'd heard something too. Like maybe she saw what I had chosen not to do. That was enough. I turned back to my plate and picked up my fork again. There was power in not being what they expected, and more power still in not needing to explain it. It took 3 days before I stopped expecting a message. The first morning after the wedding, I stared at my phone the way a child might stare at a door, believing somehow that if I looked long enough, someone would walk through it. Someone would acknowledge I had come, that I had mattered. By day 5, I was embarrassed to still be checking. By week 2, I had stopped hoping. No one texted. Not Michael. Not Mom. Not even Aunt Beth, who had complimented the centerpieces like they were her own. No, thank you for the gift. No, glad you made it. Just silence. Heavy, uninterrupted silence that didn't feel like an oversight. It felt like a choice. A shrug disguised as a pause. And I told myself it was fine. I told myself I hadn't gone for them anyway. I had shown up for me, for dignity, for truth. And I still believed that. But a small part of me, a quiet, shivering part 1, usually tried to silence. Wanted someone to see. Just one person. It was mid-November when I got the envelope. Tucked into my mailbox, cream-colored and smooth, no return address. The handwriting was unmistakably careful. Rounded, a little loopy, like someone had practiced on scrap paper first. I brought it inside without expectation. Maybe it was a generic thank you note. Chloe had mass-mailed to everyone. Maybe it would start with Dear Guest. I opened it standing in the kitchen, coat still on, keys dangling from my fingers. The first thing I noticed was that the ink wasn't printed. It was handwritten. Blue pen. Slight smudge at the bottom. Real. It began. Rachel, I meant to write you sooner. I just didn't want to say anything that didn't come out right. You deserve words that land softly and honestly. I kept reading. She wrote about the tea set. Said she hadn't put it away yet, that it was sitting on a small linen runner in her living room next to a vase of dried lavender. Said she kept looking at it when things felt loud. She wrote about the letter I'd included, the one I'd calligraphed so carefully. Said she read it twice. Once quickly, heart pounding, then again slower, sentence by sentence. Then she wrote something I didn't expect. I don't think anyone meant to leave you out, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen, and I hate that it did. You deserve better. From them. From all of us. My eyes blurred at the word us. She didn't separate herself. She didn't try to escape accountability through politeness. She stood in it, even when she didn't cause the damage. That mattered more than I wanted to admit. At the bottom, in neat script, she'd written, "Would you meet me for brunch sometime soon? Just us. No obligations. Just two women talking like people." Below that, her phone number, and a tentative time next Sunday. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it back into the envelope and held it against my chest. It was such a small thing. But it was the only thing that hadn't come with strings, performance, or apology coated in frosting. It was a choice. A gesture made not out of duty, but decency. And it was the first time in weeks, maybe longer. I didn't feel like I had imagined the whole thing, so I texted her one word back. Yes, by the time December rolled in, I had started to feel lighter. Not fixed, not healed, but steadier. Brunch with Chloe had been gentle. There was no performance, no tight smiles or careful pauses. We talked about work, books, our mothers. We laughed. She'd insisted on splitting the check and hugged me outside the cafe like I was a friend she actually wanted to keep, not a name her fiancé dragged along like baggage. It didn't fix the whole picture, but it gave me a corner of it that felt warm. Then the group text came. December 14th, 6:47 p.m. I was on my couch, wrapped in a fleece blanket with a holiday movie playing in the background. The kind where everyone forgives each other in matching pajamas and snow, falls right on cue. My phone vibrated twice. I checked the screen, saw Fitz Family Christmas, and felt that old, brittle tension climb up my back. It was the same thread from the wedding, still intact, still operating, still intact without me. I opened the message, a photo of Mom's mantle decorated with red velvet bows and gold-dipped pine cones. Jenna had replied with 4 heart eyes and 1 glitter emoji. Then came the actual invitation from my cousin Danielle. Christmas Eve, 6 p.m. at our place. Potluck style. Let's get festive. Bring wine, a gift, and your holiday spirit, LOL. The list of names followed, family members tagged, suggestions about what to bring, laughter, excitement, and finally, at the bottom of a comment thread, someone had added me. Also, Rachel is coming, I think? Rachel, with an extra A. The wrong name, not just a typo. not autocorrect. That spelling wasn't even in my contact. It wasn't how my name appeared on anything. I stared at it. One word, and I could feel every other time they'd half noticed me compact into that moment. That accidental A felt louder than any silence they'd ever given me, because it confirmed something I hadn't wanted to believe. I wasn't being included. I was being tolerated. That kind of cheer is the worst kind. It comes with glitter and gritted teeth. No one had reached out to me directly. No one had asked if I was free, if I even wanted to come. I was an afterthought, swept in at the end, like the extra folding chair nobody wants to admit they forgot to set. And they still spelled my name wrong. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, out of clarity. Because suddenly, the difference between being wanted and being expected was sharp and blinding. And I'd finally lost interest in confusing the two. I muted the thread, closed the app, and pulled the fleece blanket tighter around my shoulders. Outside, the first flakes of snow had started to fall. Gentle, unspectacular, but steady. I thought about Lily's kazoo song on my birthday. I thought about Chloe's letter. I thought about the silence that came after I brought something beautiful to a wedding where no one had left space for me. And I thought, this year, I choose peace over presents. I almost didn't go. Christmas Eve loomed like an unopened envelope. The kind you already know isn't personal. You just hope the stamp smudges enough to pretend it is. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself they wouldn't notice if I didn't show, and that would be the cleanest kind of closure. But then I saw the 2 boxes sitting on my desk, wrapped simply. No glitter, no curling ribbon, just white paper, black string, and 1 label each. To Chloe, to Lily. That was all. I'd bought Chloe's gift the week after our brunch, a snow globe from a small shop in the city, glass and weighty, the base engraved with 1 word, stillness. Inside, a single silver tree, branches bare, grounded in a swirl of falling stars. It wasn't festive. It was honest, quiet, like her. Lily's was bigger, boxed in bright colors, an art kit, every shade imaginable. Pencils, markers, watercolor cakes, brushes, thick paper, glitter glue. Tools for a child who hadn't learned to second-guess what she made. Those 2 were the only ones who'd shown up for me this year, and so I would show up for them. I arrived at 6:42 p.m. The driveway was already full, cars pressed along the curb like a parade of overcommitment. I parked 2 blocks down and walked slowly, boots crunching over a dusting of snow, my breath a steady rhythm in the cold. Inside, everything smelled like cinnamon and compromise. The house was lit top to bottom, candles flickering on windowsills, trays of store-bought appetizers trying their best to look homemade. Someone had put on a jazzy Christmas playlist. I walked through the entryway with my coat still on. No one greeted me. Jenna was laughing too loud in the kitchen. Michael was hunched over the punch bowl, telling a story that made someone slap the counter in glee. Mom was by the fireplace, adjusting ornaments on the tree like it was a competition. No one turned. I slipped the snow globe into Chloe's hands when I passed her in the hallway. She gasped quietly. "Rachel, it's beautiful." "I thought of you," I said simply. "The engraving's on the bottom." She flipped it over. "Read the word." Her eyes softened. She didn't say anything else, but she didn't need to. The way she cradled it said enough. Lily found me next. Ran into the living room with glitter on her cheek and socks that didn't match. "Rachel!" she shouted, beaming. "You came!" "I told you I would," I smiled. "Got something for you too." When she tore open the wrapping, her mouth fell open. "For me? All of it?" "Yes, all yours." She hugged the kit, eyes wide, like she'd just found treasure. "Now I can make you a real birthday card next year, with glow-in-the-dark stars." I laughed. I'd love that. It wasn't dramatic. No music swelled. No one paused to watch. But for the first time all evening, I felt like I was in the room on purpose. I didn't bring anything for the others. Not out of spite, out of decision. No cheap scarves, no cookie tins, no blank smile to offer in exchange for politeness. Just 2 gifts. Real ones. That was enough. Eventually, someone would notice. They'd count packages under the tree. They'd whisper, but I didn't care. I wasn't there to be palatable. I was there to be present, and only where it mattered. I sat on the edge of the couch with my hands folded neatly in my lap, watching my family unwrap things they would forget by next week. Aunt Clara squealed over a coffee mug that said "Mom Fuel" in glittery script, even though her kids were grown and had kids of their own. Dad clapped for a fleece blanket that still had the clearance tag stuck to the seam. Someone passed around a set of cocktail napkins that read "Slay all day," and everyone laughed like it was the first time they'd heard a pun. The whole room felt full and flat, like a snow globe that had been shaken too long and settled into something fogged and heavy. No one mentioned the missing gifts from me, but they noticed. I could feel it in the way Jenna kept glancing at the pile under the tree, in how Mom didn't ask what I'd brought, in how Michael raised an eyebrow when Chloe unwrapped the snow globe in private and tucked it carefully into her tote without a word. The tension didn't explode. It curdled. It came in sidelong looks and half-finished comments, the kind that stay just loud enough to be heard, if you're meant to hear them. "Guess some people came just to observe this year," Jenna muttered to Danielle, sipping her wine with that smug half-smile she always wore when she thought she had the upper hand. Danielle didn't reply, just pressed her lips together and nodded in that quiet, complicit way. Later, by the buffet table, I heard another. "I think she's trying to send a message," Mom said to Aunt Clara as she scooped a spoonful of dry stuffing onto her plate. "No gifts? That's pointed. She's probably punishing us," Aunt Clara said in a stage whisper. "Withholding, to make a point. Punishing." It struck me, that word, as if silence could be cruelty, as if choosing not to perform love on demand made me vengeful. As if restraint, when you've already been forgotten, is a tactic, not self-respect. I didn't say anything, not because I didn't have something to say, but because none of it would land. You can't explain peace to people who think it's war just because you stopped playing the game. They didn't know about the letter I wrote and tore up. They didn't know about the RSVP I never received. They didn't know about the gift Chloe cried over. They only saw the surface. Rachel, quiet again? Rachel, not making a scene, but somehow always accused of wanting one. Lily was the only one who seemed untouched by it all. She sat beside me on the floor, legs crisscrossed, sketching stars and mountains with her new art kit like the world was made of paper and color. "You don't like cookies?" she asked suddenly, mouth full of gingerbread. "I like cookies," I said. "I just didn't feel like bringing them this year." She nodded. "That's okay. Sometimes I don't feel like sharing my markers, even if I like people." It made me smile. If only adult logic could be that pure. We finished the evening with the usual posed photo by the fireplace, people holding mugs they didn't like and smiling like they weren't tired. I stood off to the side, didn't offer to take the picture, didn't squeeze into the frame. No one asked me to. No one noticed. And that, strangely, didn't hurt as much as it should have, because I was no longer waiting to be invited. I had learned how to stand in a room without trying to fill a role that never fit me. I had brought what mattered, and left the rest behind. It was close to 10 when I picked up my coat. Snow tapped lightly against the windows, half-hearted flurries that wouldn't stick but still wanted to be noticed. Conversations had thinned into pockets. The wrapping paper had been cleared, the dishes rinsed, the wine opened and closed again. Everyone was settling into that post-festive hum, full bellies, tired eyes, the slow unraveling of holiday cheer. I slipped on my coat without drawing attention. I could have left without a word, but I didn't, not because I owed them anything, but because some exits deserve punctuation. I stepped to the center of the room, not dramatically, just enough to be seen. Mom was near the piano, flipping through a hymnal. Michael stood by the hallway with Chloe, one arm around her shoulders. Jenna was curled on the couch, phone back in her hand, thumb scrolling like it might save her from herself. I cleared my throat gently. They looked up. "I just wanted to say goodbye before I head out," I said, voice calm, steady. No one interrupted. "I won't be here next Christmas." A pause. "I'll be traveling. Somewhere warm, I think. Somewhere quiet." I saw confusion flicker across a few faces. Surprise. Maybe even offense. I wanted to thank you, Chloe, I continued, turning to her, for the brunch. That felt like actual love, the kind that doesn't need an audience. She blinked fast. Her mouth parted slightly, but she didn't speak, just gave the smallest nod, and I felt it like a full sentence. And Lily. I turned to where she sat on the floor, cross-legged, surrounded by glitter glue and half-finished sketches. I knelt down beside her and brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. Thank you for calling me on my birthday, I said quietly. It meant more than you'll ever know. She smiled up at me like I'd handed her something no one else had noticed she wanted. I kissed the top of her head, soft and quick, like sealing a letter you don't want the world to read. Then I stood. No monologue, no accusations, just air, clearer now. I walked to the door, slid on my gloves, reached for the handle. Behind me, no one rushed to stop me, but silence followed, and that was enough. Because sometimes it takes a quiet departure to make people hear what they refused to listen to when you were still speaking. And as I stepped into the cold night, snow melting against my scarf, I didn't feel angry or sad. I felt light, like maybe for the first time, I hadn't left a piece of myself behind in a room that never knew what to do with it. And if they noticed my absence next year, maybe it wouldn't be too late to understand what they'd lost. Not a grudge, not a spectacle, just someone who asked, once, to be seen, and finally learned how to leave when she wasn't. Have you ever quietly walked away from people who only noticed you when you didn't show up? Tell me in the comments, and thank you for following Rachel's story. If her journey meant something to you, I'd love to hear how.